We'll try that again. Good morning, everyone. Okay, let me give a word of welcoming to those who speak Portuguese and Spanish. Se você fala português, nós temos a opção de você ouvir tudo em inglês. Basta pegar ali atrás um fone de ouvido. E hoje eu acho que é o Gabriel que eu estou vendo lá atrás. Não entendi. Ah, você pode ouvir tudo em português, né? Basta pegar o fone de ouvido e lá está o Gabriel ou o Jason, eles vão falar tudo em português para você. Se você habla espanhol, hoy no tenemos alguien que puede hablar en español para ustedes, como siempre tenemos. Marley está en México con su mamá que está enferma. Entonces, perdón, hoy no tenemos cómo ayudarte a hablar español, pero vamos a orar que Dios les bendiga ahí que están esperando la traducción, que puede comprender todo. Saludo especial a hermanos de Cuba. El pastor, hermana que están de Cuba, es un pastor en Cuba, está visitando de la primera vez, muy bienvenido. Today we have a pastor from Cuba. He's visiting us for the first time, and I'm so happy. We should welcome them. Welcome you. You know? Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos. Ahí está su hijo que vas a ayudar un poquito con la interpretación. Muchas gracias. Today we're beginning a new sermon series in the book of Isaiah. So Isaiah chapter 40, the book of Isaiah is mainly divided into three major books. But we're going to focus our attention on the second book of Isaiah, beginning in chapter 40. From today to the middle of December, both myself and Pastor Clinton, Pastor Mauricio will be exchanging messages here, beginning on chapter 40 of Isaiah. And this is quite interesting. We're going to be talking about God, the gospel according, the good news of Jesus according to the book of Isaiah. This is probably the most evangelistic of all the Old Testament books. This is where we find the most intriguing promises and prophecies about Christ's come and the salvation that we can find in Christ alone. And this is quite interesting because as we see, although he lived in the 8th century, roughly between 700 and 600 before Christ, Isaiah made his prediction to the exile to the Babylon. And this is something interesting because it always caught my attention, the fact that this is a prophet who is roughly 700 years before Christ. And he is making a prophecy that will happen 100 years after him. And he's making a prophecy, first of all, of the exile. And then another prophecy about the freedom and the rescue and the redemption from exile. And this amazes me always, because sometimes we see prophets that will come and they say, well, you are in trouble right now, but I see freedom for you. Well, we can always hope for the best. But in this case, 100 years before, he says, Israel is under sin. And this is a picture of all of us, because Isaiah speaks to the nations, not only to Judah, and it's quite interesting, Judah, because at this time, there was no one nation no more, not anymore. We had two nations at this time. So long before Isaiah, Saul and David and Solomon, we have the split of the kingdom, 10 tribes of Israel to the north, and because they were more people, they've been called Israel, the northern tribes of Israel. Then the southern tribes of Israel, only 2 tribes. Who knows them? Benjamin and Judah, right? These are the two tribes that join together and form where is Jerusalem, the kingdom of Judah. And Isaiah is in the kingdom of Judah. After the invasion, 586 before Christ, the Babylonians, they wipe out Israel from the map. After the invasion, never again we've heard about Israel as the 10 tribes. The only Israel we've known after the exile is the southern tribes. God preserved them. So Isaiah is in the southern kingdom, and Hezekiah is the king of Judah. Actually, probably after David, the best king Judah ever had, Hezekiah. And you see how Israel is under sin over and over and over again. A new king comes, another king comes, another king comes, and always Judah and Israel, they are rebelling against God, rebelling against God, rebelling against God. So finally it comes to chapter 39 of Isaiah. And this is what he says in verses 6 and 7. This is how he says, "The time will surely come." Oh. 100 years from today. "But the time will surely come when everything in your palace and all that your fathers have stored up until this day will be carried off to Babylon." And he gives the name of a country that roughly almost didn't exist so far. It's precise. As much as he gives the name of Cyrus, who only will be born 130 or 170 years later. So it's a precise prophecy. And he says, you're going to be carried out off to Babylon, and nothing will be left, says the Lord, and some of your descendants, your own flesh and blood, who will be born to you, will be taken away, and they will become eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. So this is a prediction. The exile will come. So this, of course, brought terror to everyone. And they still had to wait 100 years before the exile actually happened. When Babylon comes and takes everyone, you know the story of Daniel and his friends and on, and they all go to Babylon 100 years after Isaiah. And then there's a change. Chapter 40. Chapter 40 is the hope for those in exile. Isaiah gives the prediction that they will be taken into exile. And as terror takes care of their hearts, takes control of their hearts, Isaiah comes and he gives another prophecy. The prophecy that redemption will come. And then this is how he begins the new book within his own book. Now he's talking about those who will be in exile. They should read this. And this is for all of us, because this is Christ-centric, quite a prophecy. So all of us will have to understand that maybe right now you are in exile. Maybe right now you are under pressure. Maybe right now certain things are not cooperating with you. Certain things are not the way you hope them to be, out of control. And this is what happened to Judah. They were in exile. Down in exile, they should have read chapter 40 of Isaiah. And this is how it goes. He begins to say, comfort. Oh, comfort my people. In Hebrew, the word comfort is not the same as we see in Spanish, in Portuguese, or English, like a comfy, cozy embrace. No. In Hebrew, comfort is encourage. They are frail. They are in exile. They are fleeing. They are afraid. They are starving. They are slaves in exile. And Isaiah says, comfort, encourage you. Encourage your heart. I have to say that for me, chapter 40 of the book of Isaiah is probably one of the most important books in my own life. I was the second year of law school in Brazil when during the night I was reading chapter 40 of Isaiah. And then out of nothing I began to weep and cry. And as I was weeping, I understood the Lord was speaking with me. I don't want you to be a lawyer, Jaime. I don't want you to be a judge, Jaime. I want you to be a pastor. I want you to encourage my people. I want you to comfort my people. I remember exactly 35 or 37 years ago when I knelt in my room alone as I was in São Paulo. And then I prayed and I said, Lord, I thought I was going to be a judge until I read this. I'm convinced in my heart that what you want from me is for me to encourage your people. So this is what Isaiah is saying: comfort, encourage. And he says, oh, comfort my people, says the Lord. Now you imagine this. The people is in exile. And now, 100 years later, probably they don't know anything about Isaiah anymore. They are idolaters, the Bible says. They worship idols. All of them are running after comfort, all running after money and possessions. They are taking care of their own lives and their own business only. But now, suddenly, they are in exile. They know nothing about God. They don't know. They've forgotten everything. And then as they are suffering and crying there, it comes this word for them: comfort, says the Lord. And then he says, speak only softly and tenderly to Jerusalem. In Jerusalem here is a picture, both Jerusalem and Judah, a picture of us, the church. But also make it very clear that she has served her sentence, that her sin is taken care of, forgiven. That we should know this, as I was mentioning here last Sunday, that our sin has been forgiven. How many of us, we live our lives, carry on guilty, over and over again. We feel guilt that God is still going to punish us. And we forget that the cross of Christ is the punishment against the wrath of God over our sins. So he says, tell Jerusalem, tell the church, tell you and you and you and you and you and I, tell them that your sin has been taken care of. I paid the price on the cross. You should be punished enough. You've been punished enough and more than enough, and now it's over and done with. A voice of one calling, a reference to John the Baptist, prepare for God's arrival. Prophets should go ahead of Christ and say, prepare your heart. Prepare your heart, they say. Make the road straight and smooth, a highway fit for our God. Fill in the valleys, level off the hills, smooth out the roots, clear out the rocks. Then God's bright glory will shine and everyone will see it. Yes, just as God says it. It's quite interesting. And it is something for us, church. Isaiah is saying, Christ is coming to redeem you, to save you. But there are so many valleys and so many hills and mountains in between you and Christ coming. And the work of the church and the work of a true prophet of God is actually to fill the valleys and to tumble the rocks, so that instead of valleys and mountains, we have a highway, smooth like that. Jesus is supposed to walk smooth to somebody's heart. I always think myself when I'm thinking about us as a church, I have this question within. What is there? What kind of barrier are we building so that someone will not hear the gospel? What in our worship service is idolatry? What is something between someone non-Christian, not saved, and the Word of God that we put in there? Maybe we build too many walls. And actually, we don't make things easier for people to hear the gospel. Actually, we are a problem for the gospel. A conscious church, as Luther once said, the Reformed church always continually must be in reformation. Continuously. Non-stop. Okay, this is necessary. This is not necessary. This is too much. This is an addition. Sometimes we work so hard, and then when we see there's a pile of things between the world and Jesus. And this pile of things is just we, church, we built it. Conscious Christians, they take the valleys, they fill the gap, And they take the mountains and destroy the mountains, and they make a highway for God to go through, to travel, smooth sail, and find people's heart. It's your testimony, our testimony, my testimony when I work, when I go to school, the way I behave myself, and people see me and say, what? Is this a Christian? I never. You remember Gandhi? You know Mahatma Gandhi in India? He says, well, I love your Christ, but I really don't like your Christians. Your Christianity, the way you act your Christian life. Because Christians, sometimes we just become a barrier for people to come to Jesus. What is there in our lives that should be removed? What is there? My tradition. Am I willing to give up my tradition? Am I willing to say, God, if you really want to make everything new, begin today doing something new with me? Honest, be honest with Him. It's not your preference. It's not what you like. It's not like you've been raised up. It's what God wants to do today in your life and through your life to reach out to someone. We have to remember this. And He says, a voice, shout, He says. What shall I shout? Asks the prophet. Oh, you tell these people they're nothing but grass. Their love fragile as wildflowers. The grass withers, the wildflower fade. If God so much as blows on them, puffs on them, aren't these people just so much grass? True, the grass withers and the wildflowers fade, but our God's word stands firm and forever. Remember this. You're too fragile. You're not here forever. Remember this. Kill pride within. All of us. C.S. Lewis says the mother of all sin, pride. Pride. Kill it. Otherwise it will kill you. And then he says to the church, church, climb a high mountain. Zion. Zion is the church. It's Jerusalem. It's us. You and I. Climb a high mountain. You're the preacher of good news. Raise your voice. Make it good and loud, Jerusalem. You're the preacher of good news. Speak loud and clear. Don't be timid. So a church is supposed to be outside, being salt and light, speaking out loud and clear. Hey, you are in sin. You have to come to Christ. Otherwise, you're going to die. Tell the cities of Judah. Speak with Calgary. We're in Calgary. Tell Calgary. Tell your neighbor. Look, your God. Behold, here's your God. Look at Him. Look at Him. God, the Master, comes in power. And then Isaiah is saying, don't be afraid. I know you are in exile. I know you feel lost. But don't be afraid. God, the Master, comes in power, ready to go into action. He's going to pay back His enemies and reward those who have loved Him. Like a shepherd, He will carry for His flock, gathering the lambs in His arms, hugging them as He carries them, leading the nursing ewes to good pastures. He's going to take care of you. So the first thing Isaiah says, first he predicts captivity. The first thing he says, after that he says, God is coming and He wants to save you. God is coming. Doesn't matter how's your situation today, what you've been through today, God will come to the rescue. And He says He's the Master, He is power, He is ready to go into action. This is what God wants to do, and He will do it. God wants to save you. Can He do it? Maybe you says, here I am. I'm swimming and I'm drowning. Can someone come and rescue me from here? Can God save you? So Isaiah says three things. Yes, He can save you, and I'll show you why. Number one, we have an incomparable God who can save us. Matchless, incomparable. There's none. There's no other God. We know that. But even if there was another God, would be matchless. There's no comparison between Him and any other thing. And we as Christians, we have to understand and believe that, so much so that every time we're going through stress and trouble and difficult times, we know that we have an incomparable God. First of all, Isaiah compares him with the universe, and he says the universe is incomparable with God's majesty. And then Isaiah says, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who else? No one has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scale and the hills in a balance. Who else can do that? Who else actually created the world and everything was right there in his own hand? We think we see the universe. So amazing, so amazing. We call it infinite. Isaiah calls it, we call it infinite. Isaiah calls it just a dust. Just a dust. Isaiah says the human wisdom is incomparable with God's majesty. Verse 13, 14, he says, who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord at his counselor? Anyone ever came to God and said, God, you know, you've been doing these things here, but I think you're not sure what you're doing. God, with all due respect, may I give you some advice on how to run the universe? No one can do that. No one can come to God and give him advice, counseling. No one. Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him? And who taught him the right way? Who? Who was before him? Who was it that taught him knowledge or showed him the path of understanding? Anyone could say, I did it. Anyone would be crazy enough to say, I've been God's counselor. No. Every wisdom, every single wisdom we see marvelous people. We see great scientists, we see philosophers, we see authors, we see people telling stories throughout history. None of them can be compared to God's wisdom. It's quite interesting. See this, you know, I like Hebrew and Greek because I think it's enhances the reading of the scriptures. And see this. In verse 12, he says, he has measured the waters. In verse 13, he says, who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord? Is the same Hebrew word. In other words, what Isaiah is playing with words, he's saying, he can measure anything and everything. No one can measure him. Is that beautiful or what? He measures everything. The universe is infinite, not for him. He knows the beginning and the end of it. Oh, the stars, everything he can measure. He can measure your heart, the Bible says in Psalm 139. He can measure everything. No one can measure him. It's too big. Too big. We have an incomparable God who can save us. Yes, he can save us. The nations are incomparable to God's majesty. Verses 15, 17, he says, surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust. Lebanon were well known by its mighty, beautiful trees. Maybe like the redwoods of California and Washington and Oregon. Mighty, mighty trees in Lebanon. I've seen this Lebanon tree. Is not sufficient for altar fires, nor its animals enough for burnt offerings. Before him all the nations are like nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. I remember when I grew up in Brazil, the supermarket was really different in the 1960s. I would go to the supermarket for a supermarket. I would go to the store, to the corner of the dust, the red street of my little town. And then I went to buy, my mom said, you go there and buy 700 grams of rice or flour to make bread. And then there's the scale, the balance was there, the scale. And you know, it's quite interesting. I still remember this. The person actually was a Japanese man. I remember Mr. Takenaka. He would open the little paper bag and get the flour with a spoon like this and would throw here and see, okay, 700. Give it to me. But then you see the plate. There's still some leftovers. Dust. Nothing. This is what Isaiah says. Yes, we have an incomparable God who can save us. Yes, he can, and he will. Number 4, Isaiah says the idols of man are incomparable to God's majesty. With whom, then, will you compare God? To what image will you liken him? As for an idol, a metal worker casts it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold and fashions silver chains for it. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that will not rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that will not topple. Can you compare God with an idol? Whether made by gold or by wood, by clay. Can you compare God with this? Are you sure this is your religiosity? This is where you trust the destiny of your soul relies upon the strength of an idol? Are you sure? You're kidding me? This is so I know how much is at stake. Are you sure? Number 5, he says, the inhabitants of you and I, of the earth, and their leaders are incomparable to God's majesty. This is what he says. Have you not been paying attention? Have you not been listening? This is quite an interesting Hebrew question, because he says, you should know this by now. It's astonishing to me that you still don't know that. Astonishes to me that you admire people that you see on Instagram and Facebook more than the God who made everything. Astonishes me that we are trusting the destiny of our soul to leaders, world leaders, powerful men and women around the world, kings and presidents and prime ministers and everyone there. Very powerful people that we follow, that we obey them. And Isaiah says, these people, they are nothing compared to God. Don't you understand? The foundation of all things, God sits high above the circle of the earth. The people look like mere ants. He stretched out the skies like a canvas, yes, like a tent canvas to live under. He ignores what all the princes say and do. The rulers of the earth count for nothing. Princes and rulers don't amount to much. Like seeds barely rooted, just sprouted. They shrivel with God when God blows on them. Like flax and chaff, they're gone with the wind. Today they're here. It's quite interesting. Isaiah is talking about a people that they know Babylon is beginning to rise. And then the Assyrians, and then the Greek, and then the Romans. All of them gone. But then you see, wow, but China is different today. Oh, Russia is different today. Oh, the US is different today. I don't know who else is different today. Today is a different game. It's a new ball game. All dust. They come and they go. They come and they go. They come and they go. Finally, Isaiah says, the vast universe is incomparable to God's majesty. He begins talking about the universe. He ends talking about the universe. So who is like me, God says? Who holds a candle to me, says the Holy? Look at the night skies. Who do you think made all this? Who marches this army of stars out each night, counts them off, calls each by name, so magnificent, so powerful, and never overlooks a single one? Who says, all the stars, you come, and you stay there, you stay there, you stay there, you stay there, you stay there? Who can do that? You can study them, you can make them. Harry Bultema, who is a Dutch-born pastor, who for many years, until he passed away in 1905, I think, in the US, this is what he says: the astronomers are still busily engaged in counting and classifying the stars. But Christ has described, counted, and ordered them already. Isn't that beautiful? Everything you see from the astronomists today, bright people, great people, the only thing they can do is to try to understand how things work, try to find a new star, a new planet. Sometimes Pluto is a planet, sometimes he's not a planet anymore. Right? They're trying. They're trying. I give this to them. They're trying. God is not trying. He created every single one of them. And He orders them, and He says, you stay here, you stay there, and stay put. Job, chapter 26, verse 7, Job says, He spreads out the sky over empty space. Isn't that beautiful? Imagine one day God sort of woke up, kidding. And He says, you know, there's nothing here, empty. This is the Hebrew word used in Genesis chapter 1 when He says, barach, out of nothing. God, in the beginning, out of nothing, God created everything. Out of nothing, God says, well, from here to there, there's now an universe. I'm establishing it. And He suspends the earth over nothing. It's quite interesting. In mythology, some peoples in the past, they believed two huge elephants. Actually, they would hold the earth on their back, so the earth doesn't fall. I was wondering where the elephants would stand. I think it's Greek mythology, I think. You know, Atlas was responsible to hold the earth. I still wonder where Atlas would stand. Job, 4,000 years before Christ, 4,000 years before Christ, Job said, he suspends the earth over nothing. You stay there, and you stay there. Our God is so big, so majestic. Yes, He can save us. Do you believe Him? Do you trust Him? Is the question. This is our God. Hudson Taylor. Hudson Taylor was a first missionary from England to China in the late 1800s. If you ever heard anything about inland mission, China, inland mission, this is Hudson Taylor. 51 years working in China. Amazing work until 1905 when he passed away. He died in China. This is what he says: many Christians estimate the difficulty in the light of their own resources. You see the difficulty, and then immediately you think what you have. This is what I have to face this big problem. And thus, they attempt very little. Well, this is what I have, I'll just attempt this. And they always fail. Attempt too short. Sometimes shameful for the church how shy we are. All giants have been weak men who did great things for God because they reckoned on His power. They trusted His power and His presence to be with Him. I have nothing, only 5 fish and loaves. Here it is, Lord. I give it to you. I know you have much more, and you can do much more. It's not about me. This is pride. It's not about you. It's about who is in ruling, who is in control. My second point, yes, God wants to save. Comfort my people. Comfort. Encourage them. Yes, I want to save because I'm incomparable. Second thing, why you should trust God is because we have a compassionate God who cares for us. Not only God wants to save you, Not only he is incomparable, so he's powerful, majestic, and yes, he can save you, but he's a compassionate God. He has compassion. He even says, speak tenderly to my people. He says that. Speak tenderly to them. Be nice to them. Care for them. Verse 27 says, why would you would ever complain, O Jacob? Jacob is the church. Why would you complain? Why do you cry and keep whining and complaining, Israel? Why do you keep saying, God has lost track of me? He doesn't care about me. Why? I know it's been difficult for you. But why maybe you say, well, God doesn't care about me. He doesn't care what happens to me. Don't you know anything? Again, Hebrew question again. Don't you know? You should know by now. Don't you know? Haven't you been listening? Haven't you been listening? Pay attention. I'm going to say that again, he says. I'm going to insist on that, he says. He says, God doesn't come and go. He's not here and then disappears. God lasts. He's everlasting. Psalm 90, Moses says, from everlasting to everlasting, from eternity to eternity, God is God. There's never yesterday, never tomorrow. He's a constantly present. I am who I am. Never. C.S. Lewis, my friend, he says that this very exact moment, God is in Genesis chapter 1 creating the world, and in this very exact moment, God is in Revelation destroying the Armageddon, destroying the world. Right there. Everything in front of his eyes. He knows everything that happened and will happen as present tense. Yes, he hears us. He hears us, right? Imagine this. He doesn't get tired. Always working, always working. He doesn't pause to catch his breath. And he knows everything, inside and out. He energizes those who get tired, gives fresh strength to those who tumble and fall. You think God doesn't hear you? Would you say that you complain as much as Israel complains, God forgot about me? God doesn't care about me. Well, John chapter 10, Jesus says the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. The sheep, they know my voice. 1 Peter 3:12, for the eyes of the Lord are in the righteous and his ears are attentive to their prayer. I always look at you. Always my ears are open. I want to hear your prayer. You just say it. Pray it. Speak to me. Talk to me. Did you ever talk? Did you talk to God today, this morning, through his son Jesus? Jeremiah 29, then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You come, you pray to me, I promise, I will listen to you. Praise be to God. Psalm 66 says, who has not rejected my prayer. He has not rejected. Surely he will listen to our prayer. It's quite interesting that Isaiah says that God gives strength to the tired. But you have to acknowledge that you're tired. You have to say, God, I came to a point, I'm tired. So he'll give you strength. He doesn't give his strength. He shares his strength to those who come to him and says, I am weak. He gives power. It's amazing. He is powerful and he shares his power with the weak one. Not the strong one. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12:10, for Christ's sake I delight in my weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I'm weak, when I acknowledge that I am weak, then I'm strong. So God, he gives strength to one who acknowledges he's tired. He gives power to the one who says, I am weak, I need your power. I need your power working in me. Or if you say, I'm too powerful, then God won't do anything to you. He forgives those who acknowledge they are in sin. He saves those who acknowledge they've been lost. If you say, I'm not lost, I don't need God, okay. Okay. Number 3, and last one. Yes, God wants to save you. He wants to. He can do it because He's incomparable. He wants to because He is compassion. He loves you. He loves me. Finally, we have a gracious God who sustains us. What do we do until salvation comes? Remember, He's working, He's talking to this audience that is in exile, that will be in exile. And they read Isaiah 40, who says, well, be comforted because God is coming to save you. Okay. So, when is that? Tomorrow? When salvation will come? 2023? We love January 1st, right? Everything will be different January 1st. Everything. What do I do until God doesn't come? We have a gracious God who sustains us. Verse 30 and 31 says, even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. It's quite interesting. Either you trust God, who doesn't get tired, who renews His strength and your strength constantly, or the alternative is for you to trust man. He says, trust the young, trust the strong, trust the government, trust your money, trust your health, trust your age, trust your friends, trust your connections, trust politics. Trust those who you know. You can trust all of them. And Bible says even the strongest among them, one day they will fail you. You trust them, you trust them, you trust them. One day they will fail you. One day even themselves will need help. Even as strong as they are. The alternative is you trust God because He will renew your strength. Day by day, He will renew. It's quite interesting. Those who wait upon the Lord. The word wait in Hebrew, it's a hope, it's expect, to look eagerly for something. Isn't that beautiful? That you look eagerly for something that will happen tomorrow. And the word renew, you wait upon the Lord and God will renew your strength. The word renew in Hebrew is to pass on or to change, substitute. It's an exchange, actually. It's something that you have to trade in you trade in your weakness for His strength. You have to come to God and say, God, here I am, very, very, very weak. Would you trade in with me? I give you my weakness. Would you give me your power? Would you give me your strength? This is the kind of relationship we have to have, but this is by faith. And this actually we have to have. The Bible says, wait upon the Lord, and He will give you strength. Those who wait, wait, wait. I love the idea that Isaiah says, they will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not get weary, and they will walk and not faint. Isn't that interesting? He begins by an eagle flying, and then running, and then walking. It's almost like Isaiah got it wrong. Because probably if we were writing a book, we would begin with a small one. You're going to walk, and then you're going to run, and one day you're going to fly. Isn't that right? I would have written Isaiah this way. You're going to walk, and then you're going to run, and one day fly. And Isaiah says, you fly, and then you run, and then you walk. It's almost the opposite. Maybe it's because God is more interested in the end. Needed. The strength is given as needed. Sometimes there are days in that you will need power to go up from the depth of your depression. And with wings like an eagle, you have to soar up and fly. Some days it's like that, but it's not always. Sometimes you have something that in your life that you have to be steadfast and constant, and you have to run like a marathon over and over and over again. But actually, Isaiah is more concerned about the daily routine of our lives, is to walk. We have to learn how to walk. We have to learn how to walk the next morning, the next morning, and the next morning. To think that you're going to fly like an eagle every single day is a lie, is an illusion for you. Don't embrace such theology. Don't embrace such faith that says that I'm going to fly always, every day, every single day. I'll be up there flying. No, 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 no. God will do this if necessary. He will visit you with power if necessary, and He will make miracles in your life. But actually, God is interested to know that tomorrow, and if you are honest with yourself, you know that tomorrow you'll have bills to pay. And no one will grow wings and fly like eagles to pay your bills. There are some days that they happen. And every Christian should be prepared for the amazing surprises of what it is to live this adventure in faith with God. But the normal life is that every single day, God will walk with us. I just want to say with Warren Wisber, the theologian who passed away, and I liked him very much, he says, the word renew means to exchange. As taking off old clothing and putting a new one. Change. You give your old, rugged clothes to God. Weak gets His to yourself. We exchange our weakness for His power. As we wait before Him, God enables us to soar when there is a crisis, to run when the challenges are many, and to walk faithfully in day-by-day demands of life. It's much harder to walk in the ordinary pressures of life than to fly an eagle in a time of crisis. 700 years later, after Isaiah, there was a man who came and shouted out, "Repent and be baptized. The Messiah is coming." John the Baptist. And he was there preaching on the desert and paving the way. And as he was paving the way, he saw with his own very eyes, he saw Jesus Himself walking towards him to be baptized. The fulfillment of Isaiah 40. But there's a fulfillment today for us, church, that we still have to be faithful preachers every single day, even in our lives as we work, announcing that He's coming, preparing people's heart, and then the Holy Spirit will come and share salvation with them. Clear the way. Make a highway. Make things easier for people to hear the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. I want to finish and have a question. Church, are we doing that? I ask our board members. I ask our pastors, our new deacons. I ask our seniors from this church for over 7 years. I ask our young people, the children, are we doing it? Are we standing in a hilltop announcing clearly the gospel of Jesus Christ? Are you removing every single barrier that it becomes an impediment for people? The machine becomes so heavy and people, they don't hear the gospel because we actually interfere. How's your life, your sinful life, your faith, your joy when you are working, when you are in university, in school? Does people see barriers between them and you and God, or you become a highway, a pathway, a shortcut that somehow people will come to Christ through you? Is there anything in your life, maybe your lack of discipline, you are lazy? What is there? Maybe you're too proud. Remove them from your life immediately. Number two, in times of trouble, Isaiah is saying you can trust God. He wants to comfort you. He wants to encourage you. So you wait upon the Lord. He's come to you, and He will give you strength to walk every single day of your life. I want to finish with a story that I heard some years ago. This man, when he was saying that when he was a young boy, just a young boy, he lived in a rough neighborhood. And he had to go to school every day. So his mom, long ago, would pay 15 cents to a girl 3 years older than him to walk with him to school every morning for safety reasons. But he didn't know that. He was too young, too small to know that. But one day he got to know, say, hey, my mom is giving 15 cents for this older girl to walk with me to school every day so I can feel safe. So he came to his mom. Said, Mom, I know you're paying 15 cents for Mary. Yeah. Let's make a deal, Mom. Pay me 5 cents and I walk myself to school. And you save 10 cents. Mom, no, the school is too dangerous. Oh, I know this way. It's lots of people, bad people. No, Mommy can't let you go by yourself. Mommy, I want to go by myself. And she insisted. And finally, Mom said, okay. So Mom dismissed the girl, gave 5 cents to the boy, and said every day he began to walk by himself to school. Some years later, he was in a family dinner. And he was bragging. Oh, since when I was a little boy, I always walked alone to school. And I've always been brave. I never fear anything. I always left my home and I left to school. And he was bragging about his courage. So Mommy didn't like it. And finally, Mom broke the silence and said, Son, stop. This was not what happened. Every single day after I dismissed the girl, I walked with you to school every single day. As soon as you left home, I would wait around the corner. As soon as you were like 3 houses down, I would leave and would walk every single day. And every day. And when at 3 o'clock and time for you to leave school, I would wait outside behind a tree every day. And when you passed by me, I would hide. And then I would walk behind you every single day. Only mothers and God do this to us. We never walk alone. He gives us strength. And he says, you come to me. And you go and make disciples. I am with you. This is the Greek word of Jesus. Not I will be with you. No future. He says in the present tense. You go and I am with you every day.